Hello and welcome to Capital Recap. I'm Mike Militich. Illinois was set to be in a new era for criminal justice with the elimination of cash bail on January 1st. But a Kankakee County judge decided that the law that abolishes cash bail is unconstitutional. Now the Illinois Supreme Court will decide if the Pretrial Fairness Act is in fact constitutional. Representative Patrick Windhorst warned sponsors during veto session that the General Assembly should let the courts rule on the Safety Act provision eliminating cash bail before implementing the law.
The ability for a court to set monetary bail is inherent in the judicial power of the court and is provided by the state constitution.
But that depends on who you ask. The Illinois Constitution states people must be bailable by sufficient sureties, but it never defines bail as money.
Bailable has always meant releasable, so money is just one condition you can put on someone's release. And similarly, sufficient sureties just means sufficient assurance that someone will come back to court and not commit another crime.
Sarah Stout is the policy director for the Chicago Appleseed Center for Fair Courts and a member of the Illinois Network for Pretrial Justice. While advocates are disappointed that the Pretrial Fairness Act did not take effect on January 1st, they are thankful that the Supreme Court will quickly review this case. Republican lawmakers still argue that cash bail cannot be eliminated without bringing the question to Illinois voters.
In order for that inherent power of the court to be amended or taken away, it must come through the proper process, which is amending the Constitution rather than legislation.
Advocates say a constitutional amendment isn't necessary as they feel state lawmakers had the power to pass this plan. Stout says people had 2 years to raise any concerns that they had with the law, and she said this was a strategically timed lawsuit to shake up the implementation process just before the deadline.
Every day that we keep the money bail system in place, we're keeping an unjust system in place that's keeping people in custody solely because they don't have the money to pay their way out.
The Illinois Supreme Court plans to start arguments for this case in March. Meanwhile, all eyes were on Springfield this week as Democratic lawmakers filed their bill language for an assault weapon ban.
With you, save our children and our families and all our communities across Illinois.
The Protect Illinois Communities Act could pass during the final days of the 102nd General Assembly. Advocates for Moms Demand Action, Everytown for Gun Safety, and Brave Youth leaders want their lawmakers to put aside politics and do the right thing for public safety.
There is no reason assault weapons should be accessible and used. Please ban assault weapons. They are too accessible for people to take advantage of.
Liberal Democrats have strong support for the plan to ban assault-style weapons, but they may have trouble convincing moderate Democrats to approve a ban on magazines with more than 10 rounds. Republicans and gun lobby groups say this is a step too far and could make many law-abiding gun owners criminals.
We're going to ban high-capacity magazines in the state of Illinois because that's the right thing to do. Statistical evidence and research shows it will make a difference. And guess what? The people in the state of Illinois also want us to do that.
Democrats are determined to get the plan across the finish line this week. Gun lobby groups refuse to negotiate with sponsors of the plan and will fight it in court if the bill becomes law. Despite that uphill battle, advocates say they won't give up until a ban is in place.
We have no choice because gun violence robbed us of our innocence. We have no choice because we live in a country that cares more about protecting guns than children.
The House had an intense debate on the proposed ban that lasted until early Friday morning. Illinois Democrats have tried several times to pass assault weapon bans in the past, but there was never the political will to get proposals across the finish line. Democratic leaders feel they now have the momentum needed 6 months after the Highland Park mass shooting.
This is an important step in getting these dangerous weapons meant for battlefields out of our neighborhoods.
This plan bans the manufacture, sale, delivery, and possession of assault-style weapons in Illinois. It also blocks the sale of high-capacity magazines that hold more than 12 rounds of ammunition. The bill could also ban the sale or purchase of switches that increase the rate of gunfire. House Republican leader Jim Durkin feels now is the time to say enough is enough.
I'm not going to move on from Highland Park, for that matter Chicago, or any other communities torn apart by these guns.
People who currently own assault-style weapons will be allowed to keep their guns, but they would be required to document the serial number of the firearms with Illinois State Police within 300 days after the bill becomes law. Gun lobby groups and many Republican lawmakers argue this will infringe on Second Amendment rights. They hope courts will rule against the plan if it is signed into law.
People in Southern Illinois don't trust this. They believe next year you will change this bill again. You won't leave it the way it is. You will take more of our rights away.
Senate Bill 2226 passed out of the House on a 64-43 vote, with Lear Durkin as the only Republican supporting the plan.
You did this. You should feel great. Can I give you a hug? Thank you.
The ban still needs approval from the Senate, but the chamber decided not to vote on the plan Friday. Senate President Don Harmon says his Democratic caucus needs more time to review and evaluate the proposal. Senate Democrats could also file their own bill for an assault weapon ban before they return for session on Sunday. That's all for this week's Capitol Recap. We'll have full coverage of the end of lame duck session and the inauguration ceremonies next week. Thanks for joining us. I'm Mike Militich.